You are listening to the MS Power User Podcast. This is episode 33, recorded Thursday, March 2nd of 2017. Each week on the podcast, we discuss the latest news about Microsoft, including mobile, Surface, Xbox, and other things like Outlook. My name is Vernon E.L. Smith, and I'm joined as usual by Andy Bennett. Hi, Andy.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm fine. It's been a decent week here. Had a couple sick kids, but they are getting better. And
Yep. That's pretty much in line with what's happening here right now, because I had a cold last week. Actually, I had it. I was on day 2 of that cold when I was on the show last week, so yeah. And then, of course, once one person has a cold, it starts spreading to other people. And that is never fun. But it's inevitable. So
yeah. Well, I'm excited for this episode. We're going to cover a few different things. We got some new insider builds, talk about some a bug bash, a few different. Let's see here. Some services. We're talking about services this week. Microsoft is rolling out something for education. They've got something. They're rolling up something and ending something that has to do with Office. And, of course, we've got stuff for their mobile apps.
All right.
Well, starting us off, I think we always like to talk about the insider builds. That's kind of, as we understand, our listeners are pretty much tied deeply into that. And it is truly amazing to see how many people are part of the insider program. Even if you're not necessarily part of the insider program to submit massive feedback, people like getting those features early. And I think that's probably a majority of the people using insider builds just want that newest thing, and maybe don't submit feedback as much as they possibly should. Andy, how do you feel? Which side of this fence do you think you end up being?
I admit I always end up leaning on the I want to live on the bleeding edge kind of side, because there is a point once it's like probably not the best idea to get bored of an operating system and want something new, but I admit I fall to that all too often.
Yeah, and I primarily am doing it for features. I am fastering almost all the time on mobile, and I am whatever Microsoft sends me by default on the desktop. Same thing with tablets. I just stick with the default there. Whatever, not even release preview, but what's it even called? Production or something?
Well, yeah, you got production, then you have release preview, then slow ring, then fast ring.
Yeah, so. All right, well, we have a new build. So, Andy, this one, So how did they split it up this time? I mean, it's the same number, but it seems pretty specific to the different tracks, if you think of mobile and desktop, right?
Yeah, this time the build for mobile was delayed a day due to a blocking bug. And of course now, at the time of recording, both PC and mobile builds are out, but yesterday PC came out, and then today we end up with mobile. Excuse me. And yeah, these are not the biggest builds of all time, but these are the bug bash builds. These are the builds you are supposed to use so that they get you're supposed to send in feedback, and you will actually get a badge for sending in feedback, by the way. And, excuse me again. And it's, not a big build, but it includes some improvements, which are pretty nice, plenty of fixes, and it's all set up so that, you better get ready to start reporting feedback, because there is plenty more that they're going to crush. Because this isn't quite crunch time, it's bug crunching time, if you get what I mean. They still have plenty of time to gear up for release, because that's happening in, April?
But, yeah, I think so. And
yeah.
We're getting to the point where there's not going to be that many more features rolled out. But it is nice that we still have them coming, which is, it's nice.
Yeah. I don't think we're quite at feature lock yet, but I'd say if there is going to be any new feature at all, and it's not going to be a major one at all, don't expect anything big. There might be some minor addition, like, say, I don't know, maybe Microsoft Edge will be able to translate audio on the fly. That's just a guess out of nowhere as an example. Don't expect it. But say something like that, something that's not huge, but a minor feature. That's the only thing we could expect now, and we would only be able to expect it, I'd say, within the next week, and that would be not very likely. I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, it still could, I think, but we're nearing the end.
Mm-hmm. So what's new in this one for desktop?
All right, so for desktop, one of the biggest...
PC, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know what we want to call it, yeah.
Yeah, PC, desktop, laptop,
big windows,
convertible.
Andy, big windows.
Big windows. Windows so big, when you look outside, you can see everything. But anyways, the first change listed here is, looking over this list, it is probably the biggest one. There's now Braille support for narrator, which is... I'm honestly kind of interested in how this was developed. But anyways, they say that we love getting feedback from our visually impaired insiders and implementing features to support your needs. It's so important that we keep our diverse customers in mind as we co-create with you. Today we are excited to announce Braille support for narrator. This experience is currently in beta. So try it out and give us feedback. In order to use Braille with narrator, you will need to do the following. First off, you have to ensure that narrator is running. Then go down to Settings, Ease of Access, which can be accessed with the Windows key plus U. And under the narrator settings, activate the Download Braille button. You will be prompted to install Braille support. And then under Settings, Ease of Access, you activate Enable Braille and add a Braille display. It says, note that USB and serial connections for the display are supported. And then you just choose the language and Braille table you want to use. This is really, really cool, I think. I believe that this is going to be a huge step forward that will help a lot of people.
I am missing part of this. What is the device that's giving back physical feedback, or supplying feedback for someone visually impaired using Braille? I'm sure it exists, but it doesn't even mention that.
Yeah, that's a situation where it's like, I know something exists, but the thing is, as I have never had to deal with it, I am not someone who has dealt with much of Windows accessibility functions, because thankfully I do not need them, and none of the people I know happen to need them. But
obviously there's Braille keyboards, but that's for input. That's not for receiving information. So what am I don't know. I'm sure there's this a Braille feedback device that you would touch and it would obviously change, or even like a scrolling, like a ticker tape type of thing that would probably, that's what I envision.
Something, yeah.
But I don't have that information, and it doesn't actually mention anything like plug in your Braille ticker tape device. Nothing like that. So I
think that the people who need this will understand how to use it far better than we do.
Yeah. So that's fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, let's see, there's also a new mono. Is it mono or mono?
Mono, as opposed to stereo.
Yeah, yep. This is something that always messes me up. But anyways, new mono audio option in ease of access settings. Visually impaired users use a screen reader application to read the PC screen content and information to them, and frequently use headphones or earbuds to hear the computer when in meetings or having conversations with others. When doing so, they generally use only one earbud to hear the PC in one ear, so the other ear is free to hear conversations and sounds around them. That can cause damage to them not hear sounds that may be directed to the other earbud. In order to change the sound to be mono audio, so all audio is directed to both ears, They used to need a physical earphone adapter, and that is completely done away with in this build, as you can just now switch your audio to mono straight from the new audio section in settings, ease of access, and other options. That's another cool thing, I think.
This feels like something that should have been out several decades ago. But
true.
It's also something that I really don't run across this very often. I often will listen to something, just one side, or even just like one speaker. But that would, how I notice this most is when my kids are playing around behind the back of my computer, which they should never be doing, but they do way too often. They'll fiddle with some of the wires, and I may look and everything's plugged in, but my, the USB, the 3.5 millimeter jack is not in all the way. And that way I only get part of it, obviously. And so I'll listen to like the beginning of a Led Zeppelin song, And it's like, it just went quiet for a moment. I'm missing that part, or like I don't hear the drums or whatever in the intro. So it's, I guess that's my personal experience with that. And then I'm like, oh yeah, it must be the plug isn't in all the way. So I would love to just be able to set this to mono for, well, in my case, also conference calls, because I do listen to a decent amount of those, or webinars. If I can just put a headphone jack, or earbuds into one ear, then I can still be listening to other people around the office or what have you. That's exactly what it's for.
Yeah, it's a cool function, I think, because it really is a bit more than just... I mean, when you say ease of access, you obviously think people who are impaired in some form. This is something that can be a little handy outside of that, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, let's see.
Well, I can take this next one here. You hinted at it. You kind of leaned towards it when we talked about the feedback hub, or for insiders. But they are now introducing collections in Feedback Hub, and this is how they state this. A few months ago, we asked what was one of the biggest pieces of feedback about the Feedback Hub. You said, too many duplicate pieces of feedback. We love working with you to create a better experience for everyone using the Feedback Hub, so today we're happy to announce collections. Collections now live in Feedback Hub, starting app version numbers. Well, I don't think this is so much them responding to feedback about it. I bet they were getting really sick of seeing all the duplicates in there and were like, okay, enough with this crap. Let's trim it down a little bit better. That would be my guess. Then again, I was rather frustrated with all the duplicate pieces myself anyway.
Yeah, it's a necessary step when it comes to cleaning up the Feedback Hub. And the Feedback Hub, ever since it was the initial feedback app, it has been pretty messy. So yeah, this is a welcome addition by any and all means. Cannot complain.
Mm-hmm. And I guess I'll touch on the last one here. There's more night light improvements. Of course, night light used to be called blue light mode or something, and
yeah, blue light.
And there's one particular, probably almost out of business department store that used that line more. Used it way before Microsoft did. I don't know if you're young enough, old enough. I don't know if you're old enough to know what I'm talking about, Andy.
I am definitely not.
Okay, well Kmart used to have their blue light special. Like they would have this little flashing blue light in an area that would have like these specials.
Oh. Okay.
And it was kind of a big deal. There was on the commercials and crap like that. This was, I don't know, at least a decade ago, if not more. Anyway, yeah, it's not called blue light anymore. It's called night light, which of course is not new to this build. But now with this build, the night light color temperature range has been extended to go down to very red, which is apparently 1200K. I don't know what that means. And the entire range of the slider now works correctly. So
that's nice
for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for this build when it comes to new stuff. There's a lot of bug fixes that we won't get into at the moment, but yeah, that's it for PC. And then mobile has a slightly different changelog, and it's got some nice new things in there. Now, there is some stuff that is carried over from desktop, like for example, it does have the audio options, and it does have collections and Feedback Hub, but there are two newer additions which pretty sure are already available on previous PC builds. Maybe the one from last. Was there a build last week?
Yeah. Was it 14? I think it was 15.0.0.0.14, wasn't it? I guess we could look. Well,
I'm trying to look, but okay, it came out after the podcast. That's why we didn't touch on it then. But yeah. Anyways, though. Yeah, there was a new build last week, and it included full color emoji in Microsoft Edge, and
yeah,
okay. And so that is now in mobile with this build, and also it also says that Microsoft Edge can now read aloud. So now it can read your ebooks aloud just like on PC. Just press the read aloud button at the top right corner after opening one of your ebooks and listen to it in Microsoft Edge.
See, this is a paradigm shift for me. This is really, really difficult for me to wrap my head around sitting at my desk with 2 or maybe even 3 monitors, me digging in deep on work, productivity, whatever you want to call it, and then clicking on in Edge and saying read aloud my ebook. That just doesn't, it grinds my brain to a halt, okay? But when I think further on it, we think about, well, this is obviously Edge mobile, okay? But you could do it, I would imagine you could do it on the desktop too. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that came in a couple builds.
Yeah, but the point is that there's so many different things that we're seeing coming out to Windows, what we think of as traditional Windows, that aren't as desktop friendly. They're not things you would necessarily do on the desktop. But as we continue to expand, I mean, we have Windows 10 on ARM, we have these smaller form factors, and of course the very few differences between Windows 10 big Windows and Windows 10 mobile. It makes sense that all these things are coming down to a more mobile form factor. And I am finally my mind is wrapping around the idea that mobile is just easily movable versus this in my hand mobile, like mobile phone. And that's exciting. That's interesting to see how that's progressing as all these other little features get fleshed out and preparing us for the next, whatever the next big version of how we compute mobily, whatever that is actually going to be. I guess I don't really envision it very well yet. I don't know yet, but
I don't think anyone on our pay grade is envisioning what's coming next.
We just really don't know what mobile computing is going to be like in 5 years. We know it'll be way different.
And I think this is something that's also something that works out in the here and now, because really, if I could sit at my desktop and listen to an audiobook, I mean, this is pretty much the same thing, except you have Microsoft's text-to-speech voices instead of some famous actor or author, etc., what have you. So I think that all works out in the end, personally.
Yeah, I can't imagine it was very difficult for them to do it, but it's
they've already got the tech.
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
And of course, in mobile, you do have the same thing: Feedback Hub, the collections for Feedback Hub, and
like I mentioned.
And did you say the mono audio?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I missed that. Sorry about that.
Ah, well.
All right.
And then also on the agenda is, like I previously mentioned, that the Windows 10 Creators Update Bug Bash is getting going. And if you're new to bug bashes, it's a bit where they will release a build. In this case, it's 1525, or 15025 rather. And that build is the bug bash build. They are going to focus on squashing all the bugs people can find in that build, have them set out and scurry about like mice in a cage, giving them quests in the feedback hub to tell them, all right, go here, try this, see how it works, tell us how it goes, and if you run into an issue, we will fix it. And it's a great way to source feedback. I mean, this is like the third or fourth bug bash that's gone on. So I'd say that it's a success now. And if you complete this one, you will get a bug bash badge. Try saying that 5 times fast. In the feedback hub, if you install build 15025, finish at least one quest, and submit at least one feedback item during the bug bash week, which this runs until the 12th, I believe. That seems about right, I guess.
Okay.
And yeah, it's just a good way for Microsoft to source feedback from insiders. So please send in some feedback. It's good for you.
Yes, do it. You better cover this next one. I didn't read up on this.
Yeah, this next one I know quite a bit about. Telegram is a messaging client that competes with, as you guessed it, messaging clients. You've got your Skype, you've got your WhatsApp, you've got your name it, and Telegram is arguably the best competitor to all of them. Not necessarily the biggest, but I would argue it is one of the best. It is incredibly great messaging app on basically any platform you can think of under the sun. And their Windows desktop app has been excellent for a long time now and continues to be. And Now it seems like the next step for their desktop app is taking it to the store as a Project Centennial app. Now, previously there were plans for a UWP version of Telegram, but it seems as if that has been placed, not exactly on hold, but pushed back a bit. Because for the current point in time, it looks as if they're going to focus on converting their current desktop app with the desktop bridge and putting it in the store for everyone to easily grab in there. And this source of this comes from their GitHub page, where there's an entry where code is being changed. They specifically state that they are changing code to enable desktop bridge support. So yeah, I would say that's a pretty good indication of where things are going. And yeah, I fully welcomed him to it, because Project Centennial's a great idea. Getting more apps is a great idea. And just being able to download stuff in the store is nice. I mean, it's something that, as a regular, I guess, kind of traditional Windows desktop user, I always go around, and I'll go through my regular sources. I'll go to the main site for a program. I'll download the executable. I'll install it. It's like, you get Firefox, my personal setup. I nab Firefox, I nab Steam, I nab various add-ons for things. I'll nab Paint.net, whatever. And it's like, you go to each site, you grab the executable. Sometimes you'll have to grab it off a mirror because the main site's having issues. And then you look at other operating systems. You look at, say, actually, heck, my experience with playing around with Linux, I just go into the store and I grab any app I want, and they basically have everything I need already in that store. Which, do not take this as an endorsement of Linux, believe me. But it's nice. It is a nice experience to just go and grab desktop apps you need from a store, and that is what I want to happen on Windows Desktop. And the desktop bridge is a good way for that. I don't believe you need to start building all of your apps in UWP. I mean, maybe I'm a heretic for that, but I just really, really, really think that if you are a developer, if you are listening, if you want me to have a nice time installing your app, please just get it in the store through Centennial. It cleans up the installation process to just a single click. It cleans up the uninstallation process to just like 2 clicks. And it just gets rid of all the mess involved with stuff. And I think I've sold it enough. You get the idea.
Yeah, and you can continue to sell it each time, because it needs to be whatever. It's still a valid argument. So bring it up next time.
It is extremely convenient for the end user.
Yes. All right. Well,
it also saves me maybe half an hour at times.
Okay. Well, speaking of convenience, years ago, not so many years ago, but let's just say half a decade ago, people began, from a consumer standpoint, buying tablets. Okay, because I remember working at Best Buy, for example, and the craze was these tablets, these little 7-inch to 10-inch tablets, and it was, you can just give it to your kid and they're going to watch video on there, or whatever. And that was very common. Of course, there were also the enterprise situations, the opportunity to use that for a productivity standpoint, but it wasn't necessarily, I don't know, whatever. And of course, iPad, I think maybe, I don't know how long the iPad's been out, maybe 6 years now, something like that. And I guess someone can correct me, maybe not that long. But
I think it feels like it's been longer, actually, although maybe it's just this feeling of everything feels like it's been the way it's been forever, so I don't know.
It probably has been longer than that. Whatever. Nevertheless, a lot of people bought a lot of tablets for a long time, and so it's been a a lot of tablets. Well, in fourth quarter of 20, I'm sorry, this is year over year. In the fourth quarter of 2015, there were about 70 million tablets sold, and in this past fourth quarter of 16, it was down to about 63.5 million. So there's been an overall drop in tablet sales. That's iOS, Android, and Windows. So you can imagine, they all dropped. iOS dropped 19%, Android dropped 10%, and Windows, it didn't drop, it grew. So Windows has a pretty small market in the tablet market share. But it did increase. It's up to about 10% market share right now. I'm sorry, 16% of the market share. And where everything else has dropped, Windows has increased. I think that's pretty awesome. I think it's unfortunate that it has such a small market share anyway. But I think a Windows tablet does decidedly different things than an Android or iOS tablet does. For one, Windows tablet is updated via Windows, like it updates like a desktop PC, and
kind of as it is on the inside.
Because it's definitely...
Which actually, that just to interject with a question here.
Yeah.
Are these stats counting 2-in-1s? Because I have seen far more 2-in-1 Windows devices used as both tablets and laptops than I have seen pretty much any tablet over the past, year? Maybe year and a half or 2 years? Because that market is just exploding right now, and I am seeing nothing but 2-in-1s when I go places at times. And of course, it might be a regional thing here as well. Probably not representative of the entire country, but I am still seeing so many. It's just insane.
Mm-hmm. Well, it does not include 2-in-1s, and
that explains everything then.
Yeah, I think it really does, because there are, to be honest, I wonder if the iPad Pro would be, I guess it has to still be considered a tablet, but a Surface...
Right, it's not running a desktop operating system.
But a Surface is not considered a tablet, is it? I really don't...
Yeah, well, I think that it's considered more of a 2-in-1 than anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was kind of what's kicked that off, wasn't it?
Well, as far as kicking off a 2-in-1, the 2-in-1 segment, I would say so. I think it definitely started that, and now we're seeing things. Many devices like the Yoga, for example, that it doesn't separate, but it folds over and it has different configurations, position configurations.
Maybe it is only counting the ones where you can just detach the keyboard.
Yeah, but I really don't think if I was making the call, I would not say that the Surface Pro 4 is a tablet. I mean, that's a PC.
Yeah.
Right? Compared to what it competes with. But anyway.
I think the issue with some of these stats really is that we're now entering an era where everything is converging. We want to have everything in one device. PC and mobile phones, not exactly traditional mobile, but specifically phones, are different worlds. Yes, that is true, and it's because of the aspect ratios of the screens, I think, mostly. Then you get to tablets and PCs, and those two markets are becoming one and the same from what I'm seeing. Mm-hmm. Yes, Apple might try to hold out as much as they want and keep selling a tablet for business purposes when it's running iOS, which can't even have more than 4 apps on their, what do you call the dock? You can't even have more than 4 apps on that. It just looks comical on the screen size they're selling it with. And it's just, that is not going to work, I don't think. Mm-hmm. And then you look at, say, the Windows OEMs, and actually even some Android devices, where you see stuff like Remix coming out, where you got them designing that is merging a tablet design and a desktop design together because people want those things in the same device. They want to have a device where they can go, all right, this is my convenient, comfy media device. They also want a device where they can go, okay, time to pop out the keyboard. It is time for serious work on this thing. And they're becoming one and the same. And that's my issue with some of these statistics where it goes, all right, Windows is doing so-so and tablet industry A. Well, the thing is, are you counting those 2-in-1s? Are you counting those devices that are there to merge the market? If you aren't, then honestly, I don't think it's worth as much. Yes, good that... if we're going that just against Android and iOS tablets that Windows is gaining ground, that's also showing some signs, but it seems unclear to me. What devices are you counting here? What devices are you not?
Well, I think we can further down in the article, it does show the percentage of market share that each OEM has. So listed are Apple, Samsung, Lenovo, Huawei, Amazon, and, well, white box, like generic. That'd be like Foxconn or somebody making them. So Amazon has 3%, 3.5%, I'm sorry, 5.5% market share. I can't imagine that Surface is actually less than that, which it would not make it on the list. Microsoft, I should say. But yeah, it doesn't really show a line for others. So we know that Microsoft did not make it on this list. They're not listed, meaning the Surface is not a tablet. It is a PC, is how I'm reading this. I wish we would have found clarification on this earlier, but I guess I still don't know. But that's the way I'm reading it.
Well, I think we had a very interesting and productive conversation regardless there.
Yeah. I do have just a couple, let's see. Well, to finish my thought, as far as the updating, yes, you definitely have to update a Windows tablet with the traditional Windows updating system, which is a pain in the butt. Nobody likes that. But you don't really have to do anything to it, but people complain about, oh, my tablet's updating, or my PC's updating.
Well, everyone will complain about everything updating, I think, because it's a time where they can't use a device, and often it'll be an auto update, and they're like, well, I didn't know that was going to happen. Whoops.
Yeah, and, to be fair, actually, Windows has better controls of that now. They might still be in insider builds, actually, as far as...
Yeah, they completely are insider, but...
Yeah, that's right.
To get what I think you were getting at, the upgrade program, the upgrading a Windows device is far nicer than an Android device because, oh my goodness, Android updates are a mess. Everything's got to be specifically set up for that device by that manufacturer, and it is just a pain, as opposed to Windows where you have I don't want to say once... Yeah, it is. It is one size fits all, and that's the best possible description here, because you don't need special tweaks usually. You get your Windows updates on every single device you go and check for them on.
Well, I think a large aspect of this also is that an iOS or especially Android device is only updated for a while. Okay, you're going to have these things. I mean, Andy, you run Android. Like when you have a device that's over a year old, I guess I don't know if your device is over a year old yet, but
I have a pretty much abandoned older generation Kindle Fire, so yeah.
Okay. I was just kind of talking about the phone itself, but Android mobile device, one way or the other, same thing with iOS. The new updates don't support them. It's almost planned obsolescence to encourage you to get the new hardware. With Windows, the point is to bring as much of those features back to the old hardware as possible. Of course, it isn't available in every case, but that's a good thing.
Yeah, it was kind of fun, really, to see people put up pictures of their old computers being revitalized when Windows 10 originally came out, because apparently it had far better support for older hardware than even Windows 8 did. So yeah, I always find that neat.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, you want to take this next one, Andy?
Wait a second.
I'll cover it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can go ahead.
All right. So there's always deals on laptops. Okay, go to Amazon, keep an eye out for something. If you need a new laptop, Amazon is a pretty good place to go, but there's other places, Fry's and all that. But actually, is Fry's online? Yeah, I've never shopped from Fry's.
I've seen online deals for them, so...
Okay. Anyway, there is the HP Envy 13. I would call it a mid-range notebook or laptop. It looks pretty nice as far as the fit and finish. But it does have... Well, I'll just skip right over here. It's cheap. It's $600 for this NV13. Does have an i5 with a 256 SSD and 8 gigs of RAM. That's pretty substantial for most people. Should get you by. Most people are going to be pretty happy with that. And looks nice. Good battery life. All that. And I'm just. I'm bugging Andy. Just bite the bullet, buddy. Get something.
He's even got a note. He's even has a note in our notes here that says, "Andy, bite the bullet."
Yeah, it's really easy for me to spend your money, Andy. How about that?
Yeah, I know that feels.
Yeah. So personally, I don't have $600 that I want to spend on a laptop right now, but I'm itching to do so just because I want a new device. I haven't had a new device in a while. But there's really, if you're looking for in the market for a laptop, this is definitely a good price, and of course, it is a good laptop.
Yeah, it definitely looks really nice. It remains to be seen if I ever bite the bullet, though. And I think I'm going to go with a new desktop next. Maybe I will head with an all-in-one if I get a nice enough setup going there. But I think I might even just custom build it, but I want to get a really tough and rugged desktop PC going soon.
One that's like shock-proof and dust-proof and stuff like that. Rugged one? Ruggedized?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking more like 32 gigs of RAM, but that also works.
Yeah, I would recommend just building something. Don't go with an all-in-one. That's more. I think of that more like a kitchen device. Then again, maybe in your situation that will work best. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not totally sure either.
Moving forward, do you want to cover this next one, or I can do it?
Yeah, you can this one.
All right, so we are at. I gotta find it. Where'd it go? No, where did it go? Okay, schools. I don't go to school, but my children do, or at least one of them. But Microsoft is now inviting schools to join the new Microsoft Schools program. This new Microsoft Schools program is, as you imagine, for education. Microsoft tells us, quote, Microsoft Schools are focused on leading and learning. Schools which are working to consider how to transform education and integrate technology into the classrooms, building, and lessons would benefit from joining the Microsoft Schools program. These schools may be just starting to explore Microsoft solutions, programs, or devices in small ways, but have signaled an intent to do and be more. So it's a little bit vague what you actually get with this. There's a list, and we'll just run down it, but I don't know if it's going to be incredibly apparent to me on all of these what it means. Global recognition by being placed on this Microsoft and Showcase school list. Okay. Receive a quick start guide filled with assets and resources to support school leaders. I don't know necessarily what they're supporting them in what aspects.
I'd say it's probably a tech guide because you're going to have at least 3 teachers who look at all the new tech they're getting and go, well, I have no idea where the power button is.
Yeah. They will enroll into Global Community of Practice, which reaches over 1,000 other school leaders via social channel Yammer. The school leaders can receive a monthly e-newsletter with the best of Microsoft teaching and leading resources. Receive early updates via newsletter and social communities on new products, offers, and opportunities. That's just a direct ad pipeline to people. Wonderful. And curate resources for leaders and leading educators available for the Microsoft Educator community, and participate in quarterly global connect calls. I don't see a whole lot of value. I mean, I'm sure it's there. I'm not trying to poo-poo it right away, but most of it just feels like fluff unless this is free, unless it's like the insider program for educators.
I think it's going to be a case where they just, you put in your school, they'll see if you're a real school and not the Andrew Bennett school for kids who can't read good, and they'll put you in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it might be handy if you're in a school that has a lot of teachers who do not know how to use tech. I mean, like it says, yes, a start guide for assets and resources to support school leaders. I can easily see that being something that's just like, all right, guys, here's how to use Windows 10 at your school. Yes, it's like Windows 7. No, it's not Windows 8. And here's where the power button is because we know you guys keep forgetting where the location of it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, within Windows, they quite literally have been moving the power button around.
Yeah, but, I honestly can no longer blame anyone who forgets where the power switch is.
Yeah. All right, so I poo-pooed it initially, but the different aspect to this, a different viewpoint. My daughter in high school, she has a couple schools she's gone to. They've had Chromebooks, they've had iPads, They've had Windows machines, which you just basically run everything through Google Education or whatever it is called. I'm not sure, but Google Cloud Services. I'm not sure what their Office competitor name of that is. I'm drawing a blank on that right now.
I believe it's just called Google Apps.
Yeah, probably that sounds generic enough for Google. And they also at this school they have Apple stuff, like Apple desktops, the expensive ones, and with that they still run Google services, and it drives me nuts. I'm obviously a Microsoft fan. I want my kids and everyone around me to love Microsoft just as much as me, but that's unrealistic. What's also unrealistic is for these high school kids to go to college, or especially their first job, 2 years out of college or 4 years out of college, depending on, and expect to go drop $2,200 on a MacBook Pro or even an Air or something, and them just be okay with that. And also to expect the real world to be using something other than Outlook and Word and Excel. Now, I understand that Outlook's the Office share is diminishing slightly, and I don't think it's because people are switching from it. I think it's because new companies that are younger and what have you may look for an alternative, especially if it's cheaper or free. And I wish we had someone on here who could share a little bit better data than I have, but this is anecdotal.
Well, I mean, when it comes to data and stuff, I can't comment, but for, the subject of using Macs in schools and whatnot, what I can comment with is that a couple years ago, and by couple, I mean, oh my goodness, it's been maybe 4 years ago, I was I was in high school and stuff, and I went into a course for web design. In this web design course, they wanted to teach everyone how to use an already outdated at that point in time, what you see is what you get editor. And that was how they wanted to teach people how to build web pages. And if you're going to a computer class and all they teach you how to use is a Mac, I kind of feel it's a similar situation. Because for the majority of businesses you go to, especially just regular businesses, unless you're getting some fancy high position, majority of businesses you go to are going to be using pretty basic Windows machines as their workhorses day in and day out. If you want to use your computer at work, odds are you're gonna want to know how to use Windows. And again, in that class, they teach us how to use an outdated "what you see is what you get" editor. Listen, that wasn't web design. And in fact, the teacher even laughed, saying, "I'm so glad we don't have to teach if we don't have to go through writing HTML pages in Notepad anymore." And I'm sitting there thinking, wait a second, if I was taught that, I would be in a significantly better position now. In fact, I would actually know something. Wouldn't that be cool, huh?
Yeah. Well, you're fortunate that they taught you any of that in school back in my day, and rightly so. They didn't really teach that type of thing. I mean, I set up my first email address must have been a junior in high school. Like, that was part of the curriculum, and that was about the extent of it. Anyway, that dates me a little bit, but this is, I don't know. I don't really know how to feel exactly about how Microsoft is doing this. They obviously want to be in the schools and in education. It makes sense to get the young creators of the world moving forward and starting on the software and the hardware if possible, like a regular Windows machine. But I do understand why Apple and Google are pushing so hard to get in there, and I think maybe Microsoft needs to push just as hard to get in the education space.
Yeah.
And I think it's just almost negligence for a school district to only offer Google stuff or only offer Apple stuff. I think that is really putting their students at a disadvantage, really, once they get to the real world. My opinion.
Anyways, I guess now it's time for a couple of lightning rounds, and then I'll get to my stuff.
Yeah, what do we got next here?
Yes, we have Microsoft killing Office 365's Project Osaka, which you put in. I think you know more about it than I do.
Well, this is what I know about it, and I put three items here. One, I'd never heard of it. Okay. 2, at least in the article here, it says it's another way to collaborate, which, of course, is a huge part of what Microsoft is doing with Office. Collaboration makes sense. And it used to be a list sharing app, but then most recently it was a table sharing app. So I think when I think of a table, I think of Excel. I didn't research deep enough to understand if it was other than that.
I would say that it's probably that, seeing how it's Office.
Yeah, so I don't know why you wouldn't just use Excel for that, but anyway, maybe that's the reason it's getting killed off. I guess I won't really...
There's a reason that nobody heard of it.
Yeah, so I think I'll probably just leave it at that.
Yeah. Then you do the next item, and then I'll move on with the next couple.
All right. So Outlook. I'm a fan of Outlook. I use it on the desktop. I use it on the Surface. I use it on my work PC. I love Outlook. I also use it on my work iPhone. I use it on my Windows my Lumia. And I like Outlook. I like it an awful lot. Well, the Outlook app for iOS and Android are getting plugins. Or I'm sorry, not plugins. That's for a web browser. Add-ins. That's for Outlook and for Office. And
I swear this is totally different stuff.
Yeah, completely different. I'm so glad I didn't confuse it. But funny how the second day of the second month of the year celebrates the second anniversary of Outlook Mobile, and that's what they're updating. So both for iOS and Android, iOS is getting Evernote, Trello, and Giphy. Same thing with Android. Android does not have it quite yet, but that's coming out soon. And you can imagine how those 3 things would tie into Outlook for productivity, and especially, animated GIFs. That helps people be incredibly productive. So you can...
I can tell you that from our Slack, with information from our Slack chat that GIFs definitely help make people more productive. I swear.
And I am never sarcastic. Oddly enough, there is no word, not oddly enough, as expected, there's no word for add-ins on Windows yet, especially Windows Mobile, and that sucks.
Up next on tonight's agenda is that Visual Studio Code is getting a new welcome page, synchronized markdown preview, and more. This is version 1.9 of Visual Studio Code, which is a lightweight code editor using the Visual Studio brand. It's a nice little editor that's not as heavy as its big brother, but it's really, really good. It's a nice little code editor that's real nice, but this is version 1.9 of it. And Microsoft's introducing a new welcome page, which gives users quick access to their recent folders and files, access to support resources, as well as the ability to quickly clone a Git repository, which all that is completely welcomed. And in addition to the new welcome page, Microsoft is also adding a new synchronized markdown preview, which will automatically now make the preview for markdown files scroll automatically as you scroll in the editor itself. That's nice. And then over in our section for holographic, which is hardly ever used, we have something that's not quite related to Windows holographic, but we're counting it anyways.
Pick me. It's gaming, and I don't ever cover gaming.
Well, not quite gaming. If you've ever heard of the Oculus Rift, yes, its main purpose is gaming. And you also know that they're owned by Facebook, who we get to boo. Come on, Vernon, you get
boo.
Yes. And we all know that Facebook has Windows 10 apps that are apparently the equivalent of the spawn of Satan, and et cetera, et cetera. Well, they're now found guilty. They bought the Oculus Rift. Oculus Rift found guilty of copyright infringement. So this is on Facebook here. Oculus is found guilty of copyright infringement, and they're fined $500 million. So just know
that was 25% of what they were bought for. That's incredible.
Of course, for Facebook, it's pocket change, but just know that the company that honestly really deserves a lot of dislike, they lost pocket change, and it's pocket change, but regardless, $500 million gone from Facebook, like that.
I can hear the cheers now. Anyway.
Yeah. And so anyways, this lawsuit began in 2014 after Oculus's $2 billion purchase by Facebook, and And apparently Oculus was accused of stealing ZeniMax's trade secrets to create the early version of the Oculus Rift after the company poached John Carmack, the co-founder of id Software, which is owned by Bethesda, which is owned by ZeniMax. I hope I'm saying that right. Maybe it's ZeniMax.
No idea.
Yeah. But so they say that Palmer luckily could not have created the Oculus Rift without Carmack's help, and saying that he created a barely functioning prototype that Carmack greatly refined. Then they say that Oculus violated a non-disclosure agreement, copyright, and engaged in false designation by confusing the public into believing that ZeniMax, again, I don't know.
I
They're
bet
the
it's
company that
Zenny.
owns the,
Yeah.
Okay, ZeniMax.
I don't know.
Yeah, products were actually from Oculus. It, however, did not agree with the main allegation of violating their trade secrets, with the final award of $500 million, a fraction of the $4 billion they demanded. And they claim that and Oculus claims that ZeniMax was trying to profit from Oculus's success and are likely to appeal the verdict.
That part I believe. Well, I believe a lot of it, but that ZeniMax was trying to profit from Oculus' success, no crap, because they could have come back at them on this years ago, or at least 2-3 years ago. I don't blame them one bit for coming after Oculus after Facebook bought them. And of course, there's much deeper pockets
honestly, I have a feeling that going after Facebook is essentially just, depending on the situation, it could very well mean easy money. Not exactly easy, but you get what I mean.
Another aspect of looking at this, and this is almost conspiratorial, but I do not sue people. I think it's almost like just morally, I'll just say it's almost morally wrong in my mind. Okay, maybe not, whatever. It's in that gray area. But if I was a habitual suer, that sounds horrible, I would not sue until the peak of a company is reached. And so if that's the case, maybe Oculus is on its way down already. And
wait a second.
I'm not the only person with that opinion.
Yeah. Just to say, though, that this case was started in 2014, which is worth mentioning.
Okay, well, never mind. Conspiracy
Although, granted,
gone.
that was right as they were bought by Facebook, so yeah. All I can really say here is that, as cool as the Oculus Rift is, I really wish John Carmack would go back to making games where you shoot the devil in the face.
I could go for that.
Yes. And now we move on to full-on Xbox stuff, which is nice stuff. And so the Xbox Insider Rings have been going on for a week now, and a week and a half or so. And another bug-fixing update got rolled out the other night, and it resolves issues with specific games. And keep in mind, this is an Alpha Ring build, so you're going to want to submit some feedback to get into the Alpha Ring. Excuse me. And it fixes issues with specific games, including Halo Wars Definitive Edition, which range from stuff just not starting up to graphical issues, and also fixes some issues with audio and issues with the Windows Store. It also adds some new bug-fixing quests for you, so go on and check them out in the Xbox Insider Hub. Moving on to actual game stuff, Halo 5 is getting a new requisition pack, which contains classic helmets from Bungie-era Halo, and I cannot put into words how happy I am that it's showing up. Like in the notes here, I got 3 notes. Could mean a new direction for Halo 5 Rex, looks great, and appeals to classic Halo fans, which, hey, a hint, Andy's one. I think that the original Halo trilogy features some of the best art in the series, and they are bringing this back just to suit people like me. I cannot complain. And it's 9 helmets that you can either get for 150,000 rec points, which will take you a while to acquire, or $9.99. Which what interests me here is that, combined with the last additional pack, that they're not just random drops. They are either $9.99 or rec points, which I believe they did that with a month, which you'd get special legendary items from that. Then they did it with the voiceover announcers packs. Those were just $9.99, no chance for an in-game currency option. And yeah, I admit I have a hard time trying to figure out just how much I should squeeze the Xbox stuff into the end of the podcast here, because I don't know exactly the split of what people are looking for. But please talk to me about Halo, somebody. And final thing, something that works with Windows 10 as well. There's 2 new Xbox One S controllers coming out on February 7th, which at the time of recording, that's in just 5 days. 4 days once we get this podcast posted. And these are the Ocean Shadow controller and the Winter Forces controller. They've got great designs. You can check them out on the site. As always, go on to our notes and take a look at the article list. These look fantastic and will cost $70. Of course, if we're going to be specific, it's $69.99, but keep in mind, if you feel like waiting a month or two to get your fancy new controller design, you can save $10 or $20. So, yeah, $70, but if you wait a while, trust me, they will go down. I have made many a regretted early purchase on those things. And, yeah, that's about the end, I guess.
Well, it was another fun episode, Andy. Yay, good job and all that. This was a good one. I enjoyed it.
This is an outro.
So, outro begin. Thanks everyone for listening to the MS Power User podcast. You can of course follow the site on Twitter at MS Power User. There's a lot of great news. All our great news is tweeted out that way, and of course the podcast is. But you don't need to follow Twitter to know when it's available. Andy and some other awesome people have this ready Friday morning of every week. You can follow us individually on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Vernon EL. Andy's on Twitter at FusionFan45. Andy, you gonna be here next week, buddy?
I am honestly not sure at the moment. Right now I got a lot of family stuff going, family emergency to put it specifically, and I've mentioned it a bit on Twitter. Not exactly comfortable putting some of it right here at the end of the podcast right now, but I will, if there is a chance that at this point in time next week I might be sitting in a hospital room next to a family member, so yeah, I'm not sure if I will be here next week. I very well might be free, but everything is up in the air at this point in time, so yeah. Well, keep us in your thoughts and prayers, everybody. Yeah, that's all I can ask.
I wish you the best with all that, Andy, you and your family. So,
thank you very much.
All right, well, thanks everyone for listening. We do appreciate it, you listening. Wow, and have a great week. Take care.
Yep.